Hi, I'm Brent Hayden, Olympic medalist and world champion and co-founder of Ask Athletica. Today on this show, we're going to talk about Olympic medal winning mindsets that you can use in your business and daily life. Stay tuned.
Congratulations! You are tuned into Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Show, the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 executives and those who are dedicated to creating a quantum leap in leadership. Your host, Dov Baron, is the founder of FullMontyLeadership.com. He's an executive mentor to leaders like you, a contributing writer for Entrepreneur Magazine, CEO World, and he's been featured on CNN, Fox, CBS, and many other notable sites. Dov Baron is an international business speaker who was named by Inc. magazine as one of the top 100 leadership speakers to hire. Now, over to Dov Baron.
Welcome, dear friends, fans, and fellow aficionados of leadership excellence. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Tips for Executives, part of the Full Monty interview series. I'm your host, Dov Baron, founder of Full Monty Leadership, and I'm here to assist you tapping into the one thing in your business that changes everything. Let me ask you, are you committed to up-leveling your leadership? Well, today we're looking to Olympian-style discipline. Could there be a downside when it's applied to business? Stay tuned to find out. Remember, you can now chat about this episode or any past episode on our Facebook page. Simply go into Facebook and look for Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Podcast. If you're a new listener, new viewer, thank you for joining us. Strap yourself in. We're about to go full Monty. As always, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever it is you tune into podcasts. And we always need your help in staying relevant. So please get over there to wherever you tune in. Rate, review, and subscribe to the show. And you can also catch us on traditional radio stations across the United States every Monday and Thursday, all the way from Florida to Colorado and even in Washington, D.C. now. You can also track us down on Roku TV, where there's over 100,000 subscribers. And if you are a regular listener, regular viewer, big thank you to you for making us the #1 podcast globally for Fortune 500 listeners, with a potential reach of 2.5 to 4 million listeners for every single show. We're honored and grateful to be cited by Inc.com as the #1 podcast to make you a better leader. And you can also listen to us on Spotify or Google Home or Alexa by simply saying, play Dov Baron podcast. Again, thank you for sharing the show with everybody you know. All right, let's strip it down and dive right in. As a leader, whether you are a CEO or someone in the C-suite, a sales leader, an entrepreneur, or a leader in any capacity, you know that whether we like it or not, in one form or another, being disciplined is a part of what makes us great leaders. But is there a downside to it? And if there is, how do you sort out where it's needed and where it's not needed? Well, let's find out. My guest on this episode is Brent Hayden. Now, Brent Hayden is a three-time Olympian, Olympic bronze medalist, world champion swimmer from British Columbia, right where I am, from Mission, BC. Mission, a bit tricky, but BC. There are other famous people from there. He's regarded as the fastest swimmer in Canadian history and was one of the first Canadian swimmers to ever win an Olympic medal in the most coveted event, which is the 100 meters freestyle. He is a BC Hall of Fame inductee, Queen Diamond Jubilee medalist recipient, a two-time TEDx speaker, as well as a contemporary fine arts photographer whose work is gaining traction in galleries worldwide. Please help me welcome three-time Olympian, Olympic medalist, and world champion, co-founder of Astra Athletica, superior functional activewear, Mr. Brent Hayden!
Thanks, Tom. That was amazing.
It's good to have you here, mate. Thanks for joining us. You've managed to escape from Mission, BC, all the way to New West. You're in the right direction as you head downtown.
Well, I moved from Mission back in 2001. I've actually lived in Vancouver for 17 years, and my wife and I moved out to New West just a couple years ago. And now we're going through another move right now. Not a permanent move, more like a leave of absence. We're actually going to be heading over to Beirut, So going in completely opposite direction, and we'll be spending some time over there and splitting our homes between the two places.
That's pretty awesome. And I'll come into why you're going to Beirut in a bit, because that in and of itself is a fascinating thing. You and I talked a little bit about it when we had coffee, and I think it's a pretty interesting subject for people to know about. But before we jump in, one of the subjects I like to ask, who is someone who we likely wouldn't know who's had a major influence on your life? You know, all leaders are impacted and influenced by other people, and sometimes it's people nobody's even heard of. Who's yours?
I had a number of people throughout my career. I'd have to say it was my first one would have been my last summer club swimming coach, Phil. He kind of was the guy who took me from being this sort of weird, awkward swimmer, didn't really have a lot of talent, had a lot of drive, but not a lot of talent, and actually turned me into somebody who could actually have potential. So he was able to do that in just 2 years' time, and then, you know, went on and, you know, joined a club out in Chilliwack with Vince, who took me from summer club swimmer to now the universities are looking at me. But yeah.
What was it about, Phil, though? See, I think that so often it's something small, you know, that is missed by many, but then it's a nugget for others.
Yeah, I think Phil didn't put any limitations on what I could do. Right? I feel like a lot of people think, you know, oh, it's all, you know, potential is just like this level, and everybody's got their potential. They can only get up to that part. When you take away that potential level and just say, like, let's just see how far they can actually go, right? What's the best version of themselves that they can create? Then there's no limit. That's why, you know, one of my favorite quotes is, some people shoot for the stars, but personally, I don't like to set limits, because you can't accurately gauge your potential until you actually get there.
That's very true. Well, in that context, tell us how someone who failed swimming lessons became Canada's fastest swimmer, because that in and of itself was like, what?
Yeah, I feel
at that point was pretty sucky.
Yeah, no, I had very little potential in just about everything that I did. People did not look at me as somebody that could potentially be one of Canada's greatest athletes. Well,
let's face it, you were from Mission.
You know, Mission's produced quite a few great people. Let me tell you.
Famous pop star, what's her name?
Carly Rae Jepsen. She's in my yearbook. Back in it was the Montreal Olympics, we had an Olympic silver medalist in swimming as well, Gary McDonald, and then we had Ryan Lauren, who was from Mission, was the Canadian record holder for the 50-meter freestyle. So I actually, when I was little, I would actually I'd leave my parents. My parents would have to come and find me, and they'd always find me in the Hall of Fame as we're leaving the pool, because I'd just be in there just reading the stories of these other athletes from Mission, and started realizing, like, or start dreaming about, well, why can't that be me? Why can't I create my own story? And I did not think about, you know, the other kids that were beating me, you know, how many times I was getting in trouble for not listening in swim practice. And I started just to kind of start to believe and imagine and have these wild dreams that other people would have thought were way too impossible. But, you know, it's just, that was just me. I just wanted to just get inspired and just believe that anything was possible.
Very cool. So how did you go from being somebody who was failing in swim lessons to the fastest swimmer? What do you think was the catalyst for that? I mean, you know, you failed swim lessons.
Yeah, I stopped focusing on the results. I focused more on the performance. You know, again, not being the best kid on the team, I was regularly getting passed by the faster kids. Even sometimes my coach would put me in the lanes with the older swimmers. They grab your feet as they swim by, and they pull you back, and water goes shooting up your nose. And so I would start to find ways other than my own personal fitness levels that I could stay ahead of them, so they couldn't pass me again. So I'd focus on the techniques. I'd focus on, you know, making sure I'm getting tight streamlines, you know, good flip turns, not breathing out the first stroke, right? All those little disciplinary things with technique that every great swimmer needs to be able to develop. And, you know, when the other swimmers would beat me and, you know, I would lose, I would not get discouraged with my result. I would look at my performance and say, well, you know what, I might not have won, but I did the best time today. Or I only took this number of breaths in this race. So that's an improvement. And when I started focusing on those little things, then the results started to take care of themselves. And then I started becoming the runner-up in the swimmies. Then I started winning the aggregates, and then I started breaking the meet records, and it just sort of kept transitioning that way.
That is fascinating that you know, because I think that we would assume it was all about the results, you know, and you actually went, no, it's about something else. Is that something, I mean, I guess my question is, what's the most common misunderstanding about being an Olympian? Because I think that we've got these images in our head, we've got these stories in our head, but I think that oftentimes with anything where we get a story in our head, it's a misrepresentation. So what is the most common misunderstanding about being an Olympian, do you think?
I think people think that every Olympian, and I know other Olympians they'll be different. That's why I want to say every Olympian. The common misconception is that every Olympian is results driven, right? The truth is we are performance driven.
That's fascinating.
Right? Because if you take care of everything you can do, for example, in swimming, nobody else is in my lane. When the gun goes, that's my lane. Nobody else can control what I do there. I'm 100% responsible for everything that happens between the two walls and between the two lane ropes from the time the gun goes off. So if I can take care of that and do my own performance, the results take care of themselves. You always have that thought though of winning. That's always in the back of your mind, but That's not the focus.
So how do you, because I mean, something like the Olympics, of course, but in life, we are driven by results. We live in a results-driven world. How did you develop that Olympian mindset that took you out of the results and into the performance? Because as you said, everything is going to be, you know, did I win? Did I win? How do you get there?
I think I got there because I sucked for a lot of years. Like, God honest truth, I sucked. Learning how to lose was one of the best things that ever happened to me. Being as somebody who wasn't naturally gifted with talent was one of the best things that ever happened to me. There are so many swimmers along the way who had talent that people thought, oh, that's the one that's going to succeed. They're winning all the races, they're breaking all the meet records, they're going to go to the Olympics, and they're going to have all the success. And then there's the rest of us that are we're over here. We're kind of in this little pool of, they don't really have the it factor. They don't have the X factor thing. But those are the ones that most likely are going to make it to the Olympics. I've spoken to many Olympians about this because, I always just kind of assumed that while I was going through this, that I was somehow unique in this way, that all these other Olympians have talent, and I'm kind of the one breaking the mold. And the more I talk to them, I realize that, I actually was the mold. Right? There's, hearing stories of Olympians who regularly get cut from school teams all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Michael Jordan not making on the basketball team. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the challenges and the failures are greater teachers than the successes ever are. Success is, it's reward. It's great. I'm amazing. You don't learn anything in that.
No.
You learned you've already mastered that thing, or that you're just better than everybody else. But when you lose, there's so many lessons you can learn there, and that's where your superpower comes from.
How do you stop yourself from going down the I failed or the I'll just quit mode? I mean, because that's a natural mindset. It's not unique to anybody. Everybody has it. Things go south, and it's natural. It's easy to go, screw it, throw your hands in the air and walk away. How did you get up when you'd been knocked down? How do you get up off the canvas when you've been knocked to the canvas 18, 20 times, not once or twice,
It's I would say there's a few things that have to happen. One, you have to be driven, not motivated, right? Because motivation's crap.
Absolutely.
Like, I get asked that question all the time. How do you stay motivated? And I actually have developed a theory that I call it the match theory. If you light a match, it's not going to keep you warm through the night, but if you actually put it to something like put it to kindling or some other kind of fuel, then becomes a fire, and then it's going to take you through there. So motivation is it's like so much potential in the thing, but unless you actually put it to something, it's not going to save you through the night. So motivation is very much like that. But also so when those downsides come, it's like that rainstorm, but if the fire is big enough, you're still going to be able to weather it. But there are those times where, you wonder, like, how am I going to get through this? And the best thing you can do is talk to someone, right?
Tell us about that.
See, after the 2004 Olympics, that was a huge down point in my career, because I felt like I let my team down in the relay. My split alone was more than the difference needed to make up to get onto the podium. And I felt like I had not just let my 4 teammates down, I let my coach down who trained me to get there. And ultimately I felt like I let my country down. And then the night before the closing ceremonies, I was out trying to kind of sort of party away the pain, right? I was trying to forget everything, and kind of went on this sort of, I guess some would say called partying, you call it like path of destruction, self-destruction or whatever. But I ended up finding myself in a place I didn't want to be at. And I ended up at a place right when a riot broke out, and I was targeted by the police because they thought I was a rioter. Turned out it was just because I was tall and wearing a dark shirt. But I was face down on the streets, getting bloodied and kicked and beaten with batons by about 5 or 6 riot police officers. And then I got arrested, and I was in handcuffs for about an hour before they released me and said, yeah, sorry, you were tall and wearing a dark shirt. But
just let me stop you there for a minute, because I don't want to skip over this, because this is important. So, being at the Olympics, being an Olympian, there's a good deal of celebrity to that. There's a good deal of wow, and justifiably, there's a lot of hard work in getting there. And then, you fail. You fail to meet your own expectations, and with that comes pain. That's what we were just talking about. With that comes pain. That pain you either sit with, you move through, you do something about, or you distract yourself. You chose to distract yourself. You went out with whoever it was, you did some partying, and as you come out, you walk into a riot. Yeah. And the police assume you're part of that riot, and the next thing you know, are you drunk or are you sober?
Yeah, we had been drinking. It was about 2 or 3 in the morning.
So 2 or 3 in the morning, and you're face down in the street, handcuffed, being beaten by the police because they think you're a member of this street revolution. Yeah. Are you done at the Olympics, or do you have to still compete?
Oh, this was a week after I was done competing.
So a week after, so you're just hanging out, and so of course the cops don't know anything, and you're down. What is that? Tell us about that moment. I mean, I know that you'd had a couple of bevies, but is there a moment of lucidity there of like, oh my God, because you felt like you'd let down the team. Yeah. But now this is do you thinking, oh my God, if the press find out that an Olympian, a Canadian Olympian is, part of this riot and has been arrested, are you afraid of that too?
No, I wasn't even thinking about that, because ultimately I didn't do anything wrong. Essentially, we walked out and we're just kind of standing there, and we saw this lineup of police, and we're kind of going, well, why are they all standing there? They're shield to shield and with their, riot gear on, and we're all kind of looking around, and then they just started like running at us. So we just ran in the other direction just to get out of there. And I just ran through a doorway, and I stopped because I was out of the street. So I just didn't want to be in the street, but they ran inside and grabbed me and pulled me back out. But I was like, I didn't actually do anything wrong, so I wasn't really worried about that. What I was thinking about was, this was my big dream, right? The first time I can probably remember actually saying this dream out loud was grade 3, when our teacher made us stand up in front of the class and proclaim what we wanted to be when we grew up. And I actually said I wanted to swim in the Olympics. So I was thinking about grade 3, back when I sucked. And I was
fantastic.
And that's what I was thinking about, that this was that dream I had been dreaming of my entire life. And here I am. This is the worst moment of my entire life. How did my biggest dream become like the worst moment of my entire life? Yeah. That's what I was thinking about, as well as, I'm trying to protect my head at the same time. And
sure.
They cracked my elbow with the arm that was protecting my head. I couldn't move my arm for a few weeks after that. Had to pull out of the World Short Course Championships because I was too injured to swim. Yeah, that was I still often wonder, like, how does somebody else actually go through that? Because I almost didn't come out of that. Right. When I came back to Vancouver, I could not foresee how I was going to be able to make it to the next summer, the end of the season at the World Championships. I was just like, I couldn't even see my career beyond just making it to the next practice. That's what I was
going to ask you. What was the impact of that? Because, this moment of really seemingly random moment potentially could remove your entire trajectory of what you're aiming for in your life. How do you, and you've got an injury in the process, how did you get yourself back on track?
It took time. Mm-hmm. I had to talk to people. I got on I had to do regular check-ins with my coach every practice. I had to pop my head into his office just to, one, let him know I was actually there. And just kind of let him know how I was doing. I got set up on a weekly schedule with my team psychologist. Sometimes we even did bi-weekly, or sometimes even twice a week.
Right.
As much as needed, but at least once a week just to check in. And I was on the phone with just about anybody that was willing to listen. So, talking to my parents a lot, some good friends, just anybody that I could just talk to. But when I showed up to the pool, I couldn't wait to get into the water.
Right.
But it was for the completely wrong reason, because I figured if I could just make it into the water, then no one's going to be able to see my tears. And the worst one was when I was about halfway down the pool and I just started choking on the water because I just was having flashbacks, and I just couldn't breathe anymore. Wow. And so I actually had to grab onto the lane rope and pull myself to the end of the pool and actually climb out to catch my breath, because I just started choking on the water. But
so you had full anxiety attack.
Yeah.
And you competed in major levels after that.
Yeah. I think
you managed to come back and do that.
Yeah, because by talking to everyone, I started to realize that, this didn't have to be the end of my book. This could have been a catalyst for something that was going to launch me into something greater. And I was able to start almost using it as fuel to move me forward, because now people had this perception of me that was different than my own self-perception. And I wanted people to see who I believed I was. And within a year of being able to take that incident and actually turn it around and create a positive and create a fuel from it, went to the World Championships, which were held in Montreal, so home soil. And I actually helped Canada's relays to 2 silver medals. And fourth in the 200 free. I actually just got out touched. And that success came, I was probably 9 months, 8 months away from wanting to quit.
That's insane. You and I were talking, and just so everybody understands that Brent and I live in the same general city area, Greater Vancouver. And so we actually met and had a cup of coffee, and we sat and we had a great chat. And one of the things you shared with me while we were talking was how long a race is versus how much work time goes into it. Just share that, because I think that statistic alone is a real slap in the head for people, especially for those people who, I'm not one of them, but who are what do you call them, couch athletes, who's sitting on the couch going, "Oh, you loser." They're like, yeah, okay, yeah, maybe you want to see what it really takes. Just go through that for a minute, because I want everybody to address that.
So in order for me to swim the 100 meters in the London Olympics, 100 meters at the London Olympics, I had to swim 2.5 million meters in just that season.
Just say that again. I want everybody to really get that. That was like, let's grasp that.
Yeah. In one season.
One season.
Now, I was on the national team for 10 years.
Right.
In 1 year, I had to swim 2.5 million meters just so I would have the opportunity. The chance to swim 100 at the Olympics.
And how long did that 100 meters take to swim?
It took me 47.8 seconds.
47.8 seconds, and you swam millions of meters to get that. That is, I mean, that is a great metaphor for, like, you gotta be consistent.
Yeah. And most days, we were training up to 5, sometimes 6 hours a day. 2 hours in the water in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, plus all the dry land, the weight training, the chiropractic, the massage, the physio. There's a lot that goes into that. Not to mention all the, the sports psychology sessions that you do as well.
Yeah, that's wild. In the grand scheme of things, though, I mean, obviously, we can see you're not an old fella. So in the grand scheme of things, being an Olympian really has a short lifespan. I spent some time working with pro athletes who often have a really hard time with transitioning. Talk to us about your transitioning and maybe even the transitional identity away from just being Brent Hayden, the swimmer, which I'm sure you're still highly recognized as, but beyond that.
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually just at the Mel Zajac International meet at UBC yesterday, and around there, I'm still Brent Hayden, the swimmer. But I think my transition started years before doing photography. I got into photography in high school, taking courses, and it was something that I used throughout my career as you could call it like a meditation, right? Sure. I would use it to kind of escape and take my mind off of swimming, just losing myself in my viewfinder, and even developed my style. My style became what it is because photography for me is very meditative. And so when I retired, I still kind of had this other persona, this other identity that I had, because to me, I wasn't always Brent Hayden the swimmer. I was also Brent Hayden, the photographer. So when I retired from swimming, I wasn't in the mindset of, who am I anymore? I wasn't Zoolander looking in the puddle. And because when I retired, I still had this other identity that I could kind of, lean on. Mm-hmm. So that is one of the things that actually helped me.
Right. Now, in our conversation, because obviously there's the photography side, but in our conversation, we talked about how being an Olympian actually kind of got in the way of you being an entrepreneur. Talk to us a little bit about that, because if you're watching the show as opposed to just listening to it as a podcast, you can see that Brent is wearing a hat, and on that hat is a logo. So first of all, tell us what the logo is, and then tell us about how being an Olympian actually has had its hindrances to your entrepreneurial path.
Yeah, so this is the logo for Astra Athletica, and it is it's a symbolization of every lesson and every challenge that I had to learn in my journey towards the Olympics, from failing swimming lessons and all those other things that you actually already heard us talk about. The 3 stars are symbolic of the battles between your mind, your body, and your soul, because at the London Olympics, I couldn't, 4 days, 2 weeks before the games, I couldn't walk. Just 2 weeks before the games, spent 4 days thinking that I wasn't going to even get to compete because I can't walk. So how am I going to be able to compete? And then the day of my final, after I came back from that, my rib was out of place. So, but then again, at the Beijing Olympics, I had everything going for me. I was in my prime there. I was fit. I was swimming well. I had every reason why I should succeed. I was world champion the year before. and I didn't even get to swim in that final. I came 12th. Even though I swam faster than what I went to win the world championship title the year before, I came 12th. So I took the battles between the mind, the body, and the soul, which is actually symbolic, or was represented on my crest when I used to do karate, Ishinru karate, back in my hometown of Mission, and put it into the 3 positions of the Olympic podium, the gold, the silver, and the bronze. Because if you're going to succeed, you're not always going to have to do it on a day when everything is going right for you. You might have to perform on your worst day, and you still have to do it. Now, the A is actually you reaching for your stars, and the stars over the A is you standing on top of the mountain and overcoming your challenges. So our slogan is Rise Through Challenge.
I just let me take a pause there, because that was great stuff. That was really important. So you've unpacked you've opened a bunch of packages there, which I've got to unpack a few of them. Number one, why the hell couldn't you walk?
Yeah. So I had been suffering from chronic back spasms for a number of years. My first real bad spasm actually happened at the Beijing Olympic trials right after I made the team. Ended up spending the night in the hospital right after I qualified for the team. But I got back from that one, and it didn't bother me through the games. But then after that, every single year, I couldn't go 2 to 3 weeks without having another spasm. Usually smaller ones. They take me out of like a practice here and there. I'd have to go sit in the hot tub and stretch it out, and then I'd get back in. But it never let me train the way that I wanted to, because every time I tried to push myself, I'd have to take another step back.
Right.
But then when I got to our staging camp in Italy, I guess just from the long travel day to get there, muscles are all tightened up. I just got off my bed, went to go grab something from my backpack, and I didn't get back up. I just ended up on the floor in essentially a fetal position, and had to have people carry me down the room to where the physio was, and put me 190 pounds, Brent, onto this table and try to straighten me. And
this is you getting ready for the Olympics in London.
Yeah, I was 14 days away from the Olympics.
So, I mean, I want everybody to sort of imagine that. Like, you're 14 days away from competing in the Olympics, and you can't even walk. You can't stand up.
No.
Wow.
No. But on the 4th day, I was able to start moving. So I told myself, if I can just make it to the pool and just act as if, because the pool was actually in the same hotel complex, right? We picked this hotel
right.
because it had a 50-meter Olympic-sized training pool. So I made myself get there very slowly, and I was just on the pool deck, and my coach came up to me, and I guess he could tell by my expression that something was going on in my head. So he just asked me, "What's going on in your head?" And I said, "I don't want to retire before the Olympics." And he just looked at me and he just says, "Okay, well, why don't you?" And that just set me off. I got so angry at that thought, because my coach has always been the one that supports me. And that was the first time he ever really pushed my button like that.
Fabulous.
And I blew up. But the next morning I woke up and I felt better. And I realized in that moment, I didn't hate my coach anymore.
Yeah.
I was thankful for my coach, because my coach, I'd had the same coach for my entire international career, right? Tom Johnson. And so I think over those 10 years, he figured out that there was a button that I had, and he knew exactly how to push it, and he knew exactly when to push it.
Yeah, he knew when.
Yeah. And basically what he did was he took that voice out of my head and made me actually face it. Right, because what he threw back at me was just echoing the same voices that I was having in my own head, and I just had to realize how unacceptable those voices were, and I had to get mad at it and release all that tension, all that stress that had been building up inside of me, like shaking a champagne bottle, right, waiting for the cork to pop up. And when I did that, my back got better, and I was back on the water within 2 days, doing best training times that I've ever done in my entire life.
Amazing. What a great story.
Yeah. But then that rip, The morning of the 100-meter, or the morning I was waking up for my 100-meter freestyle final, my rib was out of place. But I just told myself, you know what, if I can get through that, what I went through 2 weeks ago, right, this cannot stop me. Right? I would rather get on those blocks, give it everything that I had, knowing that that was going to be the last time I ever swam that race again, and my rib cause a spasm, and end up in the bottom of the pool with the, I call it the world's most useless lifeguard diving in to save a swimmer in the Olympic final. I'd rather give it everything I had. You've all seen the meme, right?
Yeah.
Right. I'd rather that happen because I get 100% than hold back and just try to finish the race safe.
Right. Amazing.
Yeah. So I knew my back might spasm in that race, but I didn't care.
That's amazing. Now, and now you've gone on and you've created this clothing company, and as I said, you discovered that your Olympic abilities actually got in the way of becoming an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
A little bit about that.
Yeah. Because as an Olympian, you're obsessed with this idea of perfection, the perfect race. We use video analysis for everything. We do everything in slow-mo. We draw out the angles of our dive entries, of our catch, body rolls. We look at everything from distance per stroke to velocity to stroke rate, angle of your head. Everything you're looking for to have that perfect race to, so you can basically shave off time, because when you're at your best, fitness-wise, well, what's the other way you can get better? It comes from perfection. That's the only thing. So when we actually were on our journey in entrepreneurship and launching Astra Athletica, that drive for perfection was getting in the way so many times, because we had so many, there were just so many times where we would come up with, whether it was, a design or a blog article or a commercial or anything, it wasn't perfect. So we never put it out. We never did anything with it because it wasn't perfect. And then you're weeks down the road and you're looking back and you're going, we haven't accomplished anything because we kept scrapping all these other things because they weren't perfect.
Right.
So I had to turn out that mindset and realize that, there's that saying, like, imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. Yep. And as soon as I actually realized that, then things started to start moving forward. We started being able to just move the company forward. And then we started getting the orders in. Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, one of the things you learn pretty quick is that perfect is the enemy of done.
Yeah.
You want to get shit done, you got to give up perfect, because it's never going to be that way. And the only thing you'll ever do perfectly is retrospective. Yeah. Meaning you look back and you go, damn, that was perfect.
Yeah.
But at the time it wasn't. At the time it was like, oh, this is terrible.
Totally. And the other thing too is, like, you might have done something that's like, yeah, today that looked absolutely perfect. And then you go, 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, and you look back and you go, I thought that was perfect back then. That was garbage. Like,
exactly.
Look how good I am now. Or look how good these things are now. Right. But that was a stepping stone. So realizing that, it might not be perfect today, but it is a step in the right direction.
Absolutely. It's fascinating that we really don't have much perspective. We think we do, but we actually don't. I mean, there's so many times that I've done stuff and I'm like, oh, that was amazing. And I listen back and I'm like, God, it was awful. And other times I've done things and I've been really upset with myself that it wasn't good enough. And I'm like, wow, that was really good. And I think I had told you that when we were met, that the person who runs my marketing department sent me an article, and it was, my article, and she sent it back to me, and I wrote back and I said, wow, this is really good. And she goes, I know you wrote it. And I go, I know, but I forgot that it was good. I was like, wow, I actually am pretty good at this.
Yeah.
But that's how it is. And as you said, it can be the other way around. It's fascinating. And I think that's a really great lesson, that if you're going to be an Olympian, yeah, you're going to focus on your performance, and you're working on shaving off bits and making it as perfect as you possibly can. But as a business person, as an entrepreneur, it really has to be about always growing, always trying to develop yourself, but at the same time giving up this idea. And I think that's the tightrope. How do I constantly grow and develop, and at the same time give up this idea of perfection?
That's where I really love I sometimes refer to this as, in terms of growth mindset, the most powerful word, and it's only 3 letters, and that's the word yet.
Yet,
right?
absolutely.
Every time you think, I'm not good at this thing, or that thing's not good enough, right? Every single time you just add the word yet to the end of that sentence and realize that that's just a part of the process, right? Because there was a time I wasn't good at swimming, right? So if I said, I'm not good at swimming yet,
Yeah.
Suddenly it becomes something that's attainable, something that I can work on.
It's a great reframe, and an important one for people to grasp, that yet is actually what determines it. Because that's the point where we will often give up, when it's simply a yet. It's not a finish line.
Yeah, I'll tell you, like, I always had those voices in my head. People think that, oh, he must have always had like such positive thoughts in his head all the time. No, most of the time I actually had very negative words. I always had self-doubt, because, I grew up with people doubting my abilities my entire life. And that became somewhat of a sense of belief in myself is this doubt. But I learned these little tricks that I could actually use to talk back to it. So every single time I had that voice saying, you're not good, like, because I was known for having really terrible starts. It was like, you can't win because your starts aren't good enough yet. So then I would go and keep working on that thing.
Fantastic. Now, at the beginning, when we opened up, we started talking about the fact that you are on the move again, that you are taking a little hiatus, going to a place that I think people in North America, and I mean this not as an insult, but just as a statement of fact, is that most people wouldn't even know about this place in a real sense. And if they would, they'd think, why the hell is anybody going there? And you are moving to Beirut. Tell us a little bit about, well, first of all, tell us a little bit about why you're going to Beirut. I know the story, but it's interesting. I think it's valuable for other people to know. And how you, as a Western living first world Canadian person, feel about moving to a place in the Middle East.
Yeah, my wife, first of all, is Lebanese. She was born in Beirut. She grew up in and around Beirut. But my wife was actually the first child star in the Middle East. Back in she's going to kill me if I get this date wrong. It was either 86 or 87. She sang at the Zecchino d'Oro Festival in Italy, and it's a festival that's still around today. And she was the first child from the Middle East that went there, and she actually won the festival. And
is that like the Eurovision Song Contest? Or don't you know because you're Canadian?
I don't know because I'm Canadian.
Or American. You wouldn't know if you were American either. That's okay. Go ahead.
Maybe.
Maybe. That's a good answer. Maybe.
So her song was called Vola Palambella, which because she had to translate the song to be sung half in Italian and half in her native tongue, and that's the way the festival goes. Is the participants have to sing half Italian, half in their native tongue. So she doesn't speak Italian, but she had to learn how to sing it for this song. And when she came home, that song, especially because Lebanon was in the middle of the civil war at the time.
Yes.
The song translated means "fly, bird of peace," so it became a hymn for peace, especially among children. And it really picked up, and even in Egypt, where schools would play their national anthem, followed by her song.
Wow.
So about 8 months ago, or no, 8 months ago, I'm going like 3 months ago. She was actually back in Egypt. She was on a show that was one of the top shows in the Middle East. It's basically the Oprah of the Middle East. And I'm sorry, I don't remember what it's called. And she sang her song again with a 50-piece orchestra.
Wow.
And now there's this newfound, everyone's going, oh my God, this is her. This is our child star. She got on the cover of a huge magazine in Saudi Arabia, and now there's so much more interest for her to be back. And my wife she's never left music. Music has always been a part of her.
Right.
And now we're going back there to open up those opportunities. And my wife, she supported me like crazy in the last 2 years that of my career that we were when I met her. I attribute so much of my medal to her support. So now I'm supporting her and going to help her chase her dreams.
That's fantastic. So how you've started this clothing company, this activewear company. What happens to that while you're in Beirut? Does it continue, or is it what happens?
Oh, it's continuing. Yeah. No, we've got plans in place to be able to still fulfill orders, and it'll actually open up more opportunities for us in that market as well. And we actually have really great connections with factories over there, like very personal connections where we can actually go and tour the factories and actually oversee everything. So we're actually looking forward to the opportunity from a manufacturing standpoint, because we'll be able to, potentially be able to use, things like Egyptian cotton, for example, in our t-shirts, right? So
that's fantastic. Well, that's wonderful news. We are coming close to the end of our show, and I want to get into parts of our let's call it our lightning round. Okay. So what do you find yourself most curious about at this time?
Photography. That never really leaves me. I'm always trying to learn. It's photography is one of those things you never stop learning. And just like in swimming, you never really stop growing. And I've actually now moved back. I've taken a step back towards film now. Did that about 8 months ago. So I started in film, went digital for 18 years. Now I've gone back to film. I actually was just featured on Hasselblad's Facebook page and their social media.
You were?
I was, yeah.
Bravo. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, Hasselblad we're talking serious stuff here, mate.
Yeah.
Hasselblad. People if you don't know what Hasselblad is, they make what might be the most expensive camera in the world. Certainly right in the upper echelons of cameras.
Yeah. The only camera, or it's the only camera that's ever been on the moon.
That was a Hasselblad.
Yeah.
Wow, there you go.
Yeah, and it's funny because I grew up. I was obsessed with the space age. Apollo 13 was my favorite movie. I read the book. I know Neil Armstrong's story. I haven't seen First Man yet, but I will. And I grew up. I had the pictures of Neil Armstrong. I can't remember if it was Neil's or Buzz Aldrin's boot print on my wall. That was taken on a Hasselblad. So it's one of those things where I might not have become an astronaut, but I still kind of got weird how the universe you still attract those.
Oh yeah, it always
those things. You always attract things. I even ended up with the watch, the first watch worn on the moon. I'm not wearing it today, but I have the Omega Speedmaster moon watch because when I was a kid, I said when I grew up, I want to have that watch, and I actually won it for being the Canadian male swimmer of the year in 2006.
Fantastic! That is awesome. So you, in this imaginary reality, you are asked to write a single question. This will be the final question on life's test. What is the question?
Oh man, I wish you could edit out the time that's going to take me to think about it.
I can go to another question.
I think the question would be, what is your legacy? Right? What is it that you want people to remember about you?
Very good. That's a good question. It's a good question for all of us. What makes Brent Hayden cry?
Sad puppy videos.
You macho man, you.
I have a soft spot for it. I love animals. Our dog Chewbacca. He's a half pom, half sheltie Poshy. We actually rescued him from a kill shelter in Korea. Our friend actually reached out on Facebook saying that this little puppy, he's basically past his due date because they have such a high turnover that if they don't get adopted within a window, they're terminated because they have to make room. So when we saw that go out, my wife and I are like, we don't even have our lives are not set up for a dog. Are we going to be able to do a dog? Right? let alone kids. We're like, we can't even do a dog right now, but just like,
maybe a goldfish.
seeing his picture there and just knowing they were going to kill him, we're just like, you know what? Let's just adopt this dog. And we got him his adoption. We got his shots. We got his like everything he needed. We had him flown over from Korea, and now he just had his 5th birthday earlier this year. And I even have a cat that now lives with my parents because my wife has allergies, but I adopted him from the SPCA because nobody wanted him because he had one eye.
So I've got news for you. Do not watch Sarah McLachlan videos on.
My wife actually just did a song for an animal shelter in Egypt called the Hope Baladi Animal Rescue. So that was actually a big influence for doing this song. So I have been watching the Sarah McLachlan, unfortunately. But yeah, my wife, she's still working on it. They're just editing the music video for it.
Your wife comes home and there's Brent in the corner weeping. What's going on, honey? Are you okay? Yeah, I want Sarah McLachlan. That is fabulous. Thank you for sharing that with us.
No problem.
What makes you cry laughing?
Oh my God. I guess Monty Python.
Yeah.
My wife does not understand that humor, but me and my friend, now I'm going to tell my friend Richard that he has to watch this because we've been friends since high school. And that's the one thing we always come back to together is we could spend years apart and still be able to bond over some stupid Monty Python. Shouldn't say stupid. I should actually say genius Monty Python skit. And we'll just be in tears laughing.
This parrot is dead. No, it's not. It's a Norwegian blue. If it wasn't nailed to the perch, it'd be boom out of that cage. This parrot wouldn't boom out of his cage. He had a rocket up his arse.
It's gone dead. It's gone. It's passed on.
Like, it's no more.
Polly, wakey, wakey.
Yes.
Oh man.
The weirdness of Monty Python fans around the world. What is your guilty pleasure, Brent?
My guilty pleasure. My wife really loves the Bachelor and the Bachelorette, and I have to admit I enjoy watching that show because I find the drama to be absolutely hilarious.
That definitely is a guilty pleasure.
It's also a good excuse to open up a bottle of wine and sit down with my wife in front of the TV.
That's beautiful. What is something you've learned, preferably in the last 24 hours, but recently, that's like something brand new that you've learned?
I think just it's just kind of that life journey. You know, I kind of got this analogy now where like, you know, life is like a river, and sometimes, you know, everybody's moving with the current in one way or another. Some people are just lying back, looking up at the sky and just going wherever the current's taking. But sometimes you just got to take that oar and just be able to steer in whatever direction you want to go. Sometimes you even have to go back and fight against the current, right? You got to make your own destination. But it's that sort of false belief that moving forward is always in the direction you want to go. It's absolutely not true. Sometimes you got to be the one that actually steers the boat.
Great insight. So as we finish up, I would like for you to share with our audience one piece of practical advice based on what it is you've shared with us today. One piece that you just think that you would like people to really get. What would that be?
This is that thing that I started doing when I was, you know, not a good athlete. And, you know, I was regularly known for the things I didn't do well more than the things I was doing well.
Mm-hmm.
I learned to just walk into practice and just think, what is one thing I can do better today that will make me better than yesterday? One thing.
Just one thing. Just think about whatever that one thing is that you can do better today that you could have done yesterday. That's very simple, very practical, and very useful. This has been great, mate. I've really enjoyed being here with you. Thank you for all that you've shared. Please tell our audience where they can find out more about you, about how to contact you, all the resources you have, and of course, so that they can find out about your company, Astra Athletica, and all of those resources too.
Well, you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. My handles are the Brent Hayden, just one word. Or if you want to follow my photography on Instagram or Facebook, it's Brent Hayden Photography, again, all one word. My website, www.brenthayden.com. And for Astra Athletica, it's just one word on all our social media channels, Astra Athletica, as well as our website, www.astraathletica.com. You can see all of our products, and we offer free shipping in North America on all orders over $99. And we're actually having a huge sale right now, clearing out the original collection, because when we go over to Beirut, we're going to continue working on our new designs, and we got to clear out some room so we can get that new product in.
Fantastic. Well, again, this has been a pleasure and honor. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us, Brent. And we wish you and your bride a wonderful time in Beirut. Wish you both every possible success while you're there. I hope you'll stay with us to the end. It has been a joy and a pleasure. And again, we will make sure that we post in the show notes those links, but the simple straight link is brenthayden.com. And as I said, we'll post all the other links too. You can hang out with other conscious leaders and chat about this episode or any past episode by simply going to our Facebook page. You just go to Dov Baron Leadership and Loyalty Podcast. Just find it on Facebook. We're right there. And if you want to find out about hiring me, Dov Baron, as a speaker or strategist for your organization, then come search us out at fullmontyleadership.com/consulting or fullmontyleadership.com/speaking. The research consistently shows that even the fastest growing companies face the same challenges. They're spending the time, the money, the energy, everything they've got to attract and train and develop their top talent, also to have them leave at just a frustratingly high rate. If you're frustrated with investing in the time and the talent that you need before you get your ROI, then come talk to us at fullmontyleadership.com, where we provide the essential leadership skills to rekindle and amplify the hidden loyalty assets inside of your organization by tapping into purpose. fullmontyleadership.com, because you can't outsource authenticity. You can also stop by the Matrix, matrix.fullmontyleadership.com. That's no triple W's, you don't need that, just Matrix like the movie, fullmontyleadership.com, and get your authentic leadership matrix self-assessment tool. It's valued at $197, and it's absolutely free to you for being a regular listener to us. I want to thank you for sharing the show with everybody you know. Till next time, stay curious, my friend, stay curious about how you could do something today just a little bit better than yesterday. Remember, it's not about the results, it's about the process. I'm Dov Baron. I'm here to assist you tapping into your deep greatness to reach that next level of clarity, focus, purpose, and profit in your business, your life, and your leadership impact. And I am out.